Good evening to Joplin School Board of Education public hearing. It's February 23rd, 2016. This opening session, I'm going to call to order this public hearing. Part of the state statute determining calendars for schools that start prior to Memorial Day requires a public hearing. So this is the public hearing portion of our session tonight. There are no comments. It just has to be notified. So we're going to go ahead and adjourn and move to our regular session. So I make a motion, we adjourn and move to regular session.
A second.
I've moved and Deb second. Please vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you all for attending. Now we'll move to the regular session. So first of all, I'll call this meeting to order. It is the February 23rd, 2016 Joplin Schools Board of Education regular session meeting. Roll call, please. Pat?
Ms. Murphy?
Present.
Ms. Beard?
Present.
Mr. Gass?
Present.
Dr. Ford?
Present.
Ms. Banmore?
Present.
Mr. Coe?
Present.
And Mr. Nava is not with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. If you all will join me and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Having been presented the agenda, are there any modifications anybody requests? If none being heard, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Sally and Linda, discussion, please vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Reports. We'll start Board President's report. Policy Committee. Linda.
We met and we've got several policies and we're going to actually talk about them individually when we come up, so.
Okay.
Unless you have something to add. No.
Same with the Data Analysis Committee. We met, we prepared the strategic plan, fine-tuned it after meetings with parents, teachers, staff, and then and we met and reviewed the language. And we'll talk about that as we get into our agenda as well. We don't have our next meeting scheduled, but we'll hear a little bit more about that. All right, Superintendent's data report.
This time, basically, we're going to go right into the FEMA update. So,
Okay. We have a monthly update with the board as we've had the last couple of months, and we have one tonight. Eric will put that up on the screen for the board and the public, and the board has a hard copy in their packet. Basically, I reformatted it a little bit with the questions you had last month. I created 2 pages. The page 1 of 2 are the FEMA obligations toward these 7 projects, that 5 of which we've submitted for closeout. And you see the potential fundings we have from those obligated amounts. Obligated meaning FEMA has written up the scope of work for those buildings, and they developed the scopes of works and costed it out, and as FEMA receives the closeout package from us, of which they have a couple already, they'll be looking for the documentation to back those costs up. So the far right column there on that page 1 shows a total obligation amount of $9.3 million as listed by project. Now, page 2 of the, if Eric goes on down to page 2 of the 2-page picture, shows as the header there, you see, again, we have the same 7 projects in the same column as before. We call those expanded scope requests. That's where, when Kyle Denham from PLJBD, our architect, working with our advisors on the FEMA projects, WIT, we came up with some additional costs that the FEMA engineers and architects had, in our mind, either had made some errors on, given the tight time constraints in the first 9 months or so following the storm, or omitted some things that we think have merit and cost value associated with them to replace our losses. So this page is entirely comprised of errors and omissions and cost estimation factors. And as the header says, these are our request of FEMA to expand the scopes of work that they originally developed for those projects, expand them in those dollar amounts as you see there. So FEMA has not agreed to obligate the projects yet. They've not disagreed yet. As you see on the lower left there, we submitted our project to SEMA May 5th. SEMA sent it on, that first one, November 17. FEMA's working that project currently. Same with the second column. You see that we have three others that we've submitted to SEMA that they're working on trying to get to FEMA. And I think within the next few days, we'll be sending in our last two projects on the far right side. Irving Building and Irving Grounds ought to be going in from us to SEMA in the coming days. So again, SEMA's got to have time to work it. The federal government asked all the states to really go over those with a fine-tooth comb so they're in good shape by the time FEMA receives them from the state. And but there is no, if I wish I could predict when I thought FEMA would respond, finish their work, but there's just no telling. They won't share with us, which I understand and respect. We're anxious for an answer, but we can't produce one, and we can't really speak for them. So, questions on the updated worksheet?
When do you plan to submit for the Irving Building and Grounds?
I believe we're going to talk about those projects tomorrow. I think we're down to the last questions being answered. I think in the next 7 to 10 days they ought to be submitted.
Okay. And that would be the last of the
That would be the
FEMA
last
SEMA.
of our closeout documents,
Okay.
Now, will FEMA make a decision on these by project or
by project.
by
Yep,
entire?
one at a
Okay.
time. The first one will tell us what adjustments we might have to make and stuff like that, so.
Okay.
Let me correct President Koch. The ones that have the dollars associated for expanded scopes are the final two we'll submit. We have some others to submit for which we've already received most all the dollars. They're more or less housekeeping. They don't have significant financial impact to us like these
Okay.
do. So there'll be some follow-ons, but nothing along
Nothing that's-
this request.
Understand. Okay. Thank you, Paul.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't you just follow up now with the health?
Yes, the
And dental care.
health reports are included, and the cover page, I'll point out, which I'm sure you've already picked up on, shows that here we are in the, as of, this relates to January 31, so after 6 months of our fiscal year, starting July 1, we would be looking for, if you look at that first paragraph, we would typically, hopefully, be looking at a 58% spend of our expenditure budget. We're sitting there at 72 and a fraction, which means we're using up our budget more quickly than we ideally would. So chances are, in the April timeframe, thereabouts, I'll probably be bringing a recommendation to adjust this budget further because this is, we're deep into the year and we're outpacing the expenditure budget, as you see there. So that's, so I would just expect a request for a budget adjustment around that April timeframe, given this. We do have Tina Smith as a separate effort, but related. She scheduled a March 2nd employee meeting, beginning of a series of meetings with employees. The first meeting will be primarily educational and historical over the last 9 to 12 months, what took place leading up to last summer and the changes last fall and that sort of thing. And we'll be educating staff, comparing them to other plans, and helping them understand our plan and our plan's challenges, because it's the employees' plan, and we want to bring them up to speed with what we know. And in subsequent meetings after March 2nd, we'll be dealing more with some of the acute challenges and choices we have in front of us, so that the employee group can weigh in and help us answer some of those challenges.
To be honest with you, this is really their plan. And so they basically need to be at the table helping direct where this is at. And that ultimately, then, it is the board needs to support or not support, one way or the other. We can rest assured, though, it's going to be their plan that's coming to you, okay? It's not going to be administration's plan.
Right.
So that's the reason for that. So I've always found that benefits if you don't do that, then it becomes we, they, and it gets to be very difficult, so, okay?
Question, please.
Yes.
What level of reserves do we need to rebuild to have a better comfort level with the cash balance?
Our TPA years ago said $1 million, but that was many years ago. As far as the dollar amount, I'd recommend between $1 million and $2 million. And I think most of the, I'll reach out to our current TPA now and ask that question and bring it back to you, but that'd be based on experience, that'd be my guesstimate.
That would be consistent with my experience in other districts. For instance, Springfield, we were at right about 5.5 million is what they were comfortable with and really wanted more.
And that was 3 times us, so basically
Yeah.
that's about, $1.5 million to $1.7 million would equal that.
So that's roughly 3 months claims average?
$1.5 million? Yeah, I believe so.
Yep, that's pretty much where it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Paul, we're at 72% of the budget where we should be 58. Is that specific items, heavy consumption, or is it across the board? Is there?
I think it's across the board. We haven't identified anything that's an anomaly or anything.
So I guess I'm getting to reinsurance. Is there an opportunity to?
I don't see, 6 months into the year, 7, I don't see a claim developing where it's a
Okay.
high dollar claim at this point yet. But
Okay.
as we get deeper into the year, if there's
Sure.
any, we'll know in the summertime, because the year cuts off. Again, September 30 is the end of the health year, even though our fiscal year starts July 1.
Historically, Paul, have we been at this percent at this time before?
I'd say not before the last few years with the Affordable Care Act and the fact we went 5 years at a level premium, probably a year or more too long, while we had a healthy balance of over $3 million. So I'd say most likely in the last couple of years with the Affordable Care Act and just the fact we had an outdated premium for our plan. But we'll be conducting those meetings with employees and keep you apprised as we go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Ritter, I think you've got the next one there with Paul.
I was trying to find
Financial
out.
statements, yeah.
I was trying to get back. Paul,
He
financial
wants
statements.
to give up the ball, but he's still got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just monthly, we share the financial statements and and we have accounts payable, bills to pay later, but open to any questions you might have on those statements.
No questions? Okay.
Okay, now, I think we go into consent,
Consent agenda?
public comments.
Pat, were there any public comments? No public comments. So, next is the consent agenda.
I would move approval of the consent agenda.
Ron has moved.
Second.
Linda is second. Any discussion?
Can I just ask the LTE bill back? That's just what we get from other schools, is that right, to the?
Yes.
The tuition?
Special services, right.
Tuition, yeah, okay.
They bill us, we pay them, and works the opposite direction.
Pretty routine stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Okay. If no other discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Regular agenda. Now, this is what you've been ready for.
Now, I'm ready.
Now you're ready.
Yeah.
Let's
All
do
right,
it.
everybody in the audience, we were not able to bring this up, so I think we have, oh, you do have it? Oh, okay, awesome. How'd you do that? You said you did 5 minutes ago, you told me, okay, anyway, I'm glad you did. All right. Basically, this is my 7th month, I think. We've been really doing a lot of data analysis, really listening to the community big time, and really doing a lot of work with parent forums, student forums, teacher forums, and also doing a lot of human-centered design. Mark Manus has been doing a lot of that work. And we gave you really a good summary of that December 15th, so you might remember that. And then I've taken the data in a summary form and then taken it back to the forms. Also, I went to all the sites. I went to all the sites, had a conversation with all the teachers, and made sure that the teachers had a feel for it as well. And so basically, the strategic plan that you have in front of you is really a real fine-tuned document that's going to have a lot of other supporting documents that are to come, okay? And so really what we're looking at here, this is going to be the first read, okay? Then after tonight, and you approve the first reading, I will take it back out to the public, really starting with what I would call business leaders discussion tomorrow at lunch. We're going to have a luncheon, and there's going to be about 24 business leaders that are going to be there, okay? And so we're going to have a conversation around that and give them this information and get input from them, and then eventually to my forums. That'll be next Monday, forum conversations. And I'm also going to be having conversations with other people in the community as well. I'm looking for different venues, the chamber and things like that. So just to get feedback, all right? And so what you're going to find as we walk through this, is it measurable or not? If we can't measure it, we really shouldn't have that as part of the plan. That's what's unique and different from typical public school plans, okay? Is that basically, is it measurable, but also, is it getting to that classroom? All right, that's the key. All right, and that seems to be the message we're getting from the community as well. Okay, so the vision, Joplin Schools will engage a community of learners through high expectations, integrity, empowerment, and opportunity. Key term there is integrity. Our community does not like central office, does not trust the school district. And so what we're doing basically here is we're making sure we build a sense of integrity, transparency. Basically, there's nothing to hide in our system, all right? And then we will also want to drive the decision-making down into the classroom. That's what the empowerment piece is, okay? And so as we empower, we also need to support. And so we'll have that conversation in a few minutes too. And then, of course, the opportunity is really rich as far as everybody, as far as the stakeholders are concerned. We define stakeholders because we've been asked to do that. The community, and I believe that came out of the data committee more than anywhere, okay, is basically defining what that is. And we got away from the word customer, all right? And the main reason we did that was the parents were uncomfortable with customers, all right? All right, so ultimately then we developed really 3 goals that came out of it, but I want to touch base a little bit with the mission. Joplin Schools will build a high-performing community of learners engaged in their future through a culture of continuous improvement involving all stakeholders. In other words, this is a community-wide effort focused on children, all right? It's not a community-wide effort focused on the adults, all right? That's a major shift from what we used to be. And that's a hard thing for public education to do, all right? So now we're looking at the first goal, all right? First goal that we're targeting is student readiness. Now, this is language where we're going to be challenging and making sure, and we're going to have to define what that means, to be ready for first grade, to be ready for kindergarten, to be ready for third grade, okay? So that's what we're going to have to do that. Now, notice in there, when we say readiness, we're saying Joplin Schools will prepare every learner to be physically. Now, this is interesting. The student forum last Thursday said, Dr. Ritter, what does that mean? They caught us. We don't have an indicator. They caught us on that one. They could understand everything else through all of this except what did we mean physically. So we are going to have to come up with an indicator for physically. So they caught us. Those kids catch me every time. And so anyway, so what we have then is physically, socially, which is behavior, intellectually, which is the academic. Okay, ready to take the challenges in the next level of learning. All right? So you see then under there we have what we call the success indicators. I believe that came out of you guys too, as far as calling them success indicators. And so then ultimately then, the learners will reach high levels of academic achievement and critical thinking, all right? And so then students' readiness in literacy and math for kindergarten, 4th, 6th, and 9th grades, and college and career. So ultimately, those are the levels we're going to report to the board. We're not going to report all levels. So those are the levels that the board, because this is the board's strategic plan. By the way, when we're done and you vote on it, you're going to have plaques on both sides of this giving you your strategic plan. Put that in a picture. Okay, now, then you can see students taking algebra in 8th grade. That seems to be a key indicator as far as math is concerned. Another one is students earning qualifying scores in gifted education, advanced placement, dual credit, or technical skills assessment. which is really your Franklin test. All right, then we have 1.2, every learner will demonstrate ownership of his or her own learning, and we're talking about attendance, and we're talking about engagement in the classroom, all measurable. Most of it's going to be around these 4 behaviors. We're going to identify those 4 behaviors, and it's going to be interesting to hear what the business leaders have to say about those 4 behaviors and their own behaviors. And that's what the challenge is going to be. So here are the 4 behaviors. We thought we needed to highlight that to make it part of the strategic plan, the initial page. Okay, greeting, relationships, following instructions, discipline, getting along, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, participating, in other words, making sure they're involved and engaged, so that includes all 4 C's. All right. So then eventually the classroom departments participating in teacher improvement, in other words, the whole system is going to be understanding the whole process of PDSA, or planning, doing, study, and act, which is a high-performing approach. Okay? All right. Now you can see, again, this is our response to the students, so we still need to do that. All right. So our evaluation is very clear. All right. The thing that's we still need to develop a little bit is the authentic assessment coming from the teacher voice. We'll work that. Okay. Goal number 2. Joplin schools will involve stakeholders to become a team of empowered adults who are student-focused through their actions, resources, and continuous improvement cycles of PDSA. When I first came into the district, the first couple of months, there was a lot of voice about the adults, not a whole lot of voice around students. And so really had to do a lot of work on that to get that language changed. Okay, moving from control to empowerment. That's a major shift as far as our focus is concerned. And so we have then success indicators. Joplin school staff will foster student-centered relationships. So we're going to be using student satisfaction perceptions to measure relationships amongst themselves as well as the adults, adults. Student needs are met through early intervention, so we're going to be driving a lot of resources in to help us with the readiness at very early ages. Okay? And then the stakeholder supporting the classroom. In other words, we got to show and demonstrate throughout our system how the community is supporting the classroom, not how the community is supporting central office or the adults. It's mainly that classroom. So we got to communicate that and actually do it. All right? Joplin schools will recruit, develop, and retain quality staff. You remember the data. This is where we really are hurting. We are not keeping our staff. And really, when we analyze it, it's not just a salary, it's a culture. And so that's the empowerment piece. And so that's going to take some work. So then we have district and site level staff satisfaction, critical piece. By the way, I'm announcing tonight, we're going to be sending out teacher survey Thursday to all teachers. Okay? And then for classroom meeting, classroom model expectations, and I believe the board has seen those, and we'll bring that back to later. All right. Then we have teacher and staff retention. We're going to be targeting that. And then we have staff showing ownership of personal learning, growth, and seeking feedback. So it's basically a constant feedback loop that's critical to this. So then under 2.3, we have Joplin schools will support learners with technology tools and instructional resources. And basically what we were doing was we were trying to move technology out of the main core and making sure that we have it, it's more about resources than it is technology. But technology still is part of that language, so we had to include it somewhere because we were hearing that in the data. Personally, I have a hard time making technology part of it because technology supports. And so basically making it technology and instructional resources is a good way to go. So we have equality of resources, making sure that we have good balance across the system and support across the system. And then we have learner knowledge and use of technology to impact learning. All right? So, key thing that's going to be shifting here now is going to be systems reviews as opposed to evaluation. So in other words, we're constantly looking at making sure we have high-performing systems. The evaluation is no longer going to be the primary target. It's the system that needs to be looked at all the time. So you have, as part of that, then you have self-assessment, and you have stakeholder feedback through focus groups, forums, and surveys. Okay, so that's your learner support. All right. Now, effective and efficient. Basically, the key thing there, Joplin schools will be a stakeholder-focused culture that demonstrates responsible management to add value to the system for the benefit of students, staff, and patrons of the district. Okay. for some reason, I was looking for the word balance. Okay, maybe it's later. Anyway, under 3.1, Joplin Schools learners will prioritize learning time. From the parent forum as well as from the students, they both feel that there's a lot of waste of time in our system, okay? So increase learner engagement, effective use of learning time, increase continuous improvement cycles, in other words, constantly looking at ensure that we're using our time appropriately. Then 3.2, Joplin Schools will ensure a safe and nurturing environment, provide supports to meet the physical needs of all students, provide supports to meet the emotional needs of all students, provide supports that meet the behavior needs of all students, okay? Safe and nurturing. All right, then Joplin Schools will demonstrate fiscal responsibility and resources supporting high-performance class. Everything is focused on the classroom, as you can read through that.
There's balance, 332.
Aha, just about went by. Okay, systemic, and balanced deployment of resources. The key there is you can be too efficient to the point of where you're impacting effectiveness. So the balance between efficient and effective is really critical. And that's really what I was looking for, that term, because that's critical. Because if you're not balanced, you could have too much waste as a fault, okay? So reduce waste district-wide while meeting the needs of students. No matter what, you're going to need, there is waste in the system, we got to find it. Always got to find it. And you got to keep that in mind. All right. So evaluation methods, et cetera, pretty clear. All right, so those are really, and that's a lot of stuff. Now, you'll see to the side, well, go back to goal 1. Right here. Develop a 5-year student-centered plan to demonstrate readiness in literacy, numeracy, and physical and behavioral skills. So we need to put together, starting with the grade levels that we list here, the actual readiness in a 5-year plan and report back to you guys what that looks like. We need to do that. Goal number 2, same thing. Develop a 5-year plan that establishes a culture of confidence and empowers stakeholders to take ownership of learning, monitor growth, and seek continuous feedback. So we need to put together a 5-year plan and provide focus on that. Goal 3, define a 5-year data-driven plan focused on prioritizing time for learning by eliminating waste. Critical piece right there, okay? So there's a lot of things that are measurable in there. All of it needs to be measured. And so now how do we approach that? Well, we approach it by identifying where the greatest need is. And you as a board are going to need to help us with that. We need to find out where the greatest need is, and then we target that, and we put improvement culture around that greatest need. To me, right now, it's teacher retention. And so targeting teacher retention, zero in and figure out what is going on there. And I think we're starting to get our hands around that. And then you put a process of improvement to support that. And the key thing there is first-year teachers, they struggle with 2 things. Okay, when they come into that, first of all, they're overwhelmed with classroom management, number 1. Number 2 is feeling part of a team. And so really, those are 2 things that probably are part of teacher retention. But whatever, I think we have other things to worry about as far as teacher retention as well. I'm just using that as an example. We have another thing that may be, and it's kind of coming out really strong, going back to the first part, goal 1. It's this right here, behavior. And so we're probably going to just target and zero in on one behavior. And the kindergarten teachers are really kind of excited about this, by the way, teaching their kindergartners how to greet each other. They never thought of it, but boy, is that an important one. And what's kind of interesting is I think they're going to learn how to greet each other better than the seniors in high school when it's all said and done. So it'll be kind of interesting. I'll share that curriculum with you. We're close to getting that figured out, and it's going to be our curriculum. So, okay, so that's how you approach this. You find out where the greatest need is, you zero in on it, but you're always looking at the whole plan and making sure that all of that is part of your discussion as you move forward. Okay? Any questions? So this is the first reading. Come back on the 29th, and hopefully I'll report out any adjustments. In the meantime, if there's adjustments, I'll do it periodically. And on the 29th, we get it voted in, and then we have a plan for the next 5 years, all right? And it's very flexible, it can adjust anytime, all right? Anything? All right, thank you for that. By the way, the key to this plan, this came from the community, the key to this plan is, I stop somebody on the street, they need to know what the plan is. And so I'm going to challenge them, I'm going to stop them on the street, do you know anything about our plan, our strategic plan, our school district? Huh? Oh, by the way, here it
Who is
is.
this man?
No, really, I'm serious. The community needs to know this, and we need to measure their awareness of the plan tells us their engagement with the plan. So we're going to have to, constantly have a conversation with the community about it.
Dr.
Okay.
Ritter, is that plan currently published on our website? Or posted out
Once
there?
it's
Not yet.
adopted.
We had to have this discussion first, then we'll put it out.
Like tomorrow or something, or next day?
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that the Globe puts it on the front page. Anyway. KGRZ, they'll have a conversation, maybe debate over it. I'd like to see a debate over it. What percentage of our kids are ready? Below 50%. Okay, well, then what are you going to do? Anyway, there you go. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that information.
Yep, thank you.
Next item up is the accounts payable.
Yes.
Question, do we need to take action on this first reading?
Oh, that's right, we do.
Is there action on it?
Yes. You need action to
Okay.
get the first, it's like a policy.
Oh, okay, so a motion to approve as presented.
I would move approval as presented.
Second.
So Ron has moved and Sally has seconded. Any discussion?
Just with that one change, right, about the physical.
Yeah, we need to put the
Adding
indicator,
that
that'll be
in.
added going into the
Will
final.
we have to
We'll have to give it
review it a
to,
second time?
no,
if we
that,
put-
we'll just make those adjustments, and
Okay,
then you're gonna have to approve the amendments first, and then, yeah.
okay. Any other questions?
Actually, I do have one.
Yes, ma'am.
We've talked a lot about third grade being such a pivotal year, but we chose fourth grade here.
It's really end of third grade going into fourth grade is what that
Okay.
is. Fourth grade readiness is the end of third grade.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? If no, then please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Motion passed. Thank you. All right. Next item, accounts payable.
Accounts payable, Paul.
Yes, we have bill list items for payment of materials, equipment, services, salaries, and benefits in both instructional and support areas. The administration recommends the board approve payment of bills in the amount of $6,181,563.18.
First, a motion, then we can have discussion if necessary. I
Move we pay our bills?
I second. Debbie has moved.
Yeah.
I second. So we need discussion?
I have a question, Paul.
Yes.
In there, first of all, I wanted to say thank you for putting this, adding this in, so we can kind of, I'm
Sure.
looking through. That was very helpful. But we're paying $6,040 monthly for advertising, it looks like for Franklin Tech, which if you average that, it's $72,000 a year. Do we have a contract for that, or that's just
Is the payee, is it the?
Stone Stanley?
Okay.
I'm-
I'm not sure if we don't, we probably should. I can
Let's
check on that.
research that.
Report back to you.
Just because
Anybody
it
out there
says
know?
monthly advertising, so I'm guessing that's a regular.
I'm not sure there's 12 of those, and we might use the Globe, we might use mail or flyers too, but I'm not sure that we have 12 with that company. But how about I check it out and report back to you?
That'd be great, thanks. That question.
Good question.
Okay, that was my only question.
If no other questions, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
All right. The next item, we discussed this last month. Paul, do you want to?
Yeah, this is an interim step for the, last month, the financial advisor from George K. Baum, Greg Bricker, presented an opportunity to the board to refund or refinance the 2007 bond issue. Though that was written as a 20-year bond issue, I believe the interest rate, effective interest rate, was 3.5 and a fraction. We have an opportunity in this market. If we go out the call provision is in the March of 17 on that bond issue. If we go out now, a year ahead of time, and follow through with this refunding, when that year passes, we can pay those bonds off, get rid of that higher interest rate, and have the remaining 10 years through this action at the 2.09 rate, saving approximately some million dollars over the remaining 10 years of that original 2007 bond issue. So the board authorized the bond council and us to proceed. This is an interim step, adopting this resolution at this time. This will authorize us and the bond council and the financial advisor to sell these bonds the morning of the next meeting. I guess that would be March 29, and then bring back to you the evening of March 29 at the board meeting the results of that morning sale, and ask you if you'd like to finish the transaction at that time. But this is just an interim step toward that.
All right. Take a,
Move approval of the resolution.
I'll second.
Ron has moved and Jennifer second. Any discussion? Thanks to them for offering $7 million for refinancing.
Just might make the comment that 2.09 is an indicator of the current market rate.
Right.
That's not a guaranteed rate. That could
Okay,
change
that could change between now and the 30th,
Yes.
29th of March.
That's right.
Okay. And better to do it now while, before March.
Right, the board had that discussion. That's a good point, that as Greg Bricker pointed out, there's nothing, the board could wait a year or wait till March of 17, but, you know, the board, because there are some costs to do it a year early, we have to invest the money and you know, there's going to be a cost to investing and waiting a year versus just waiting a year and doing it then. But the rates are low now, and the board felt like last meeting, you know, burden the hands worth it to go for it now. But yes, we still have 30 days of risk even
Yep.
as we adopt it tonight.
Yep. No, that's good. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Passed. Thank you, Paul. Okay. Cognitive coaching.
Basically, this is, Jennifer can discuss this. This is basically training that I would like to see for our leaders to help them understand what it means to empower and also to be humble. But the main thing is to really kind of drive that inquiry level down into the classroom. And to do that, they need this training to help us with that. So you want to address that a little bit?
Yes, it definitely coincides perfectly with the empowerment piece that he's been talking with us about. Feedback from principals as well has been, we need this. Where can we get training on this and help with this process? And so the cognitive coaching really focuses on some major areas, especially with building efficacy among the teachers, they're being interdependent, being able to provide, again, more autonomy and a sense of community. They also ultimately working on the 5 forms of feedback and then coaching and working with each other. Ultimately, you know, you want the teachers to be able to be empowered to ask the questions of each other, as well as then taking it into the classroom with students and empowering students through questioning and through coaching. So this training will provide that for the administrators as well as the teachers that will be coming to the training as well.
I think there's like 67 people.
Yes,
Yeah.
67 people. There's 8 days of training. They're in snippets of 2 days. It'll start in April. There'll be 2 days in April, 2 days in May, and then the next 2 will then start up again in August, and then the last 2 in September, and finishing up in September.
So when will the training start from the people who go, the teachers who go, who are training the teachers? When will they start? Will they not start training the other teachers until after they've had all 8 sessions, or will they begin after April?
It's after all 8 sessions. I've been trained in this and trainer, as well as Jason Weaver. I think we're
Yes,
the only
Jason
2 in the
Weaver has
district.
had this, yes.
And so anyway, that's how that works. You've got to have all 8 before you can start.
Yes.
And will be, the teachers included, will they be out of classroom days to do this, or will these be?
Yes.
Yeah,
These
they
will
are
be-
classroom days, so
Okay.
they will have substitute teachers in their classrooms during
Yes.
those days.
Okay.
They'll go for the 2 days of training,
Mm-hmm.
and then they come back and practice the different learning that took place, and then go back, get more, then they go practice more, so.
So was there discussion on doing the training in the summer so we don't disrupt classroom learning? Or would that not work because they need a classroom
Yep.
there to come back and
That's-
practice
You-
on?
They have to have the classroom to be able to have those conversations and collaboratively with their team of teachers, as well as in the classroom with the students, and be able to use those techniques with the questioning and coaching techniques with the students. So-
Ultimately, what's going to happen, I randomly picked like 20 teachers, and we met with them
Yes.
last Thursday.
Yes.
These were all elementary teachers, and they came to the table, and I asked them how best to roll out and get high performance in classrooms. They would like to have us have a model classroom per site. And then eventually that kind of becomes a lab, and part of that lab would be the cognitive. So that's really what they would like to see. So that was really unique. I'd never heard that before, and that was kind of pretty powerful. So anyway, so we're going to start having conversations around that, so, all right.
So really, it will be implemented after that first training, because those
Yeah,
teachers will start
Yes.
working on it.
From the teachers who are currently being trained, they
Right,
will
yeah.
start utilizing those strategies that they've learned with their colleagues, and so there'll be modeling going on, but as far as actually other teachers getting to go through the training could not occur until after the 8 are over.
What's going to be interesting is the real change is going to be in the principals.
Yes.
They're always used to telling people what to do. Anyway,
So the teachers that go through this training, will their classrooms become the model classrooms?
no, well, that
No.
could be, that could be.
Could be, not
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah, we're just speculating around that right now because it came up last Thursday, so we got a lot of work to do on that.
Yes.
Okay?
No other questions? This does require a motion to approve.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Ritter, is this specialized training critical to your ability to implement that strategic
No,
plan
no
and
question.
execute?
Yep. In fact, when I first came in, everybody was wondering what I was doing, because I was basically coaching, cognitively coaching them, and they just couldn't understand how we were able to drill down to the actual need real quick, and that's really what that does.
Okay.
I think questioning, currently, when they question what the feedback is, it's surface level questioning, just kind of, just here, where Dr. Ritter is so good at really going deep and,
Getting to the source
Getting
of
to
where,
the source of-
establishing that baseline of understanding, then you can build that culture of improvement around that baseline.
right, and that's what they're saying they need.
Yep, that's what that does.
I would move item G4.
Okay. Sally has moved.
So, second.
Seconded by Linda. If there's no further discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Dozier.
By the way, Linda, this is a good medical model that doctors don't use very well. But anyway,
Thank you.
I just thought I'd make that statement for you.
You know someone who can do
Throwing
the
that out
training.
there.
How are you really feeling?
Just had to plug in there. Anyway,
Next item on the agenda is middle school science textbook adoption.
All right.
Mr. Cravens.
Well, first, our textbook adoption for science, I think, was last done in 2006, and it was time for us to come back to the drawing table and get them some new materials that are up to date and meeting the national science standards. We had 2 meetings. One, they had vendors send out the sources to the buildings, so teachers at each middle school site were able to review that prior to our meeting. Then we had a meeting, and vendors presented their textbooks. There was 2 that the committee liked, and then we sent off for bids for those. We had the committee come back together to reassess their wants, and then they end up choosing McMillan McGraw-Hill as the textbook vendor that they preferred. And so the science teachers made the complete decisions on the whole process.
That's what we're trying to present. So,
that's what we want.
And so
I have a question, Jason, about
Yes.
how is this articulated vertically? Like, how does this align with what we're doing on the elementary? Do we have an elementary science textbook? Because it used to be we were doing kits, but now I don't think we do kits. And then how does it align with what we're doing at the high school?
You know, as far as alignment, I don't know on the elementary if that they, you know, what specific textbook or kit they use. I mean, I think they may have even gotten away from the kits,
Yeah,
Jennifer.
I don't think they use the kits, so.
Yeah. So,
I just wondered what we're doing on the elementary as far as
Well, let's-
science, and then.
Let's ask someone that
Will
deals with the
that
elementary.
feed into this?
We have an expert.
So at the elementary level, we use the national standards for science that our teachers, and so then they develop and teach around those standards. So they utilize whatever resources that they may have to teach around those standards. We have not adopted science and we haven't had a science adoption at the elementary level. So they do have a textbook, but it's the textbook they've had for a number of years. It's, you know, it's been there for a while. They do still have the kits that they can utilize, and then they can also bring in whatever resource that they find that they want to use to work with the standard. There's been the science, so teachers who've worked around the curriculum for science to develop some sample lessons that teachers can go and utilize in their classroom around the science standards. So that's what we're doing at the elementary level. We realize that's an area that, you know, feedback, definitely we need to be moving in that, but we have not made any decisions with regards to that. And that will require teachers telling us what their needs are and where we need to go with that. And then we'll make decisions based upon what teachers are saying they need in their classroom in the area of science.
And so right now, each site is not doing their own, it's each classroom is doing their own based on whatever the national standards
Whatever the standards are. They're teaching to this, they're aligned to the standards, and then they have sample lessons and things they can pull from that our district teachers have come together and put together. They, again, have the science kits. They do have the textbook that we've had in the past, and then they can pull together their own resources that they may personally have to hit those standards, is currently what's being utilized.
and then,
Is there a textbook adoption cycle? Like it used to be like, this year we're going to look at language arts, this year we're going to look at math, this year we're going to look at science, this year we're going to, so is there a cycle? Is there a plan for when we're going to look at elementary science?
The plan was to look at science we were going to start looking at science this year and making a plan moving forward. But then we needed to make sure what our strategic plan, you know, with where we were now, we wanted to make sure whatever we did aligned to whatever our strategic plan was. And so once we have that in place and we know what those specific goals are, then teachers then will come together and make a decision on what they feel they need in order to meet the standards, and to also then make sure we're aligning to whatever our strategic plan is for the district, so.
Should we, I'm sorry.
Is it related to the middle school science? We're getting a little bit
Yeah, sorry,
into.
I got us off.
I know.
Well, no, and so my question ties it in, kind of,
Okay.
I guess. So is this timely? Should we wait on making a decision on the middle school textbooks until you know that it's sort of continuous with what the kids, I mean, are we starting them at a whole different level?
well, one of the things, and Jennifer mentioned, the National Science Standards is one of the criterion by which the committee is looking at the resources and saying, hey, does this tie into the national standards? And so the resource, teachers felt confident it did. The vendors indicated that it ties to the National Science Standards. So the high school doesn't have textbooks, so as far as feeding up, again, there should be teaching standards as well. So as long as the materials all support teaching to the standards, then you can have uniformity from K through 12 in science.
The real issue, though, systemically is, and we had this conversation with the math cadre, is that they all need to be at the table having a conversation, making sure that there's alignment, and we're not there yet.
Right,
Let's
that's
just say
exactly
that.
correct. We're not there yet.
But I do think we need to move forward with the middle school science because, by the way, the middle school science is pretty dynamic, what they're doing, so.
I'll move 5G.
Okay. There's a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion.
Okay, so I have one more question. So I spoke to some people, I just checked with some of the people who were on the committee, and what I was told was actually the Houghton Mifflin book was actually more closely aligned with what the teachers were teaching. And I know the difference was that they only offered like a 6-year
Right.
online, and the other was a 10-year. But is it, I mean, should we be teaching 10-year-old science? I mean, is 6 years actually maybe a better, if that text actually better matches what our teachers are teaching? Maybe that, like Deb was talking about, those cycles, should this come up in a 6-year cycle rather than a 10-year cycle?
Right. There's nothing that prevents this from going, the difference between the resources that are requested here, and this was, again, teachers made the decision, that's what the second meeting was for, was to confirm, hey, are you sure you want this before we spend this amount of money on your text? Does this meet your needs? What the teachers in the committee on the second meeting decided was that they want the security of hardback text, that they're not limited to 6 years, because with a consumable text, at the end of that 6 years, if by some chance something's off, then the resources are a challenge. They also liked the online aspect that this company offered. So there was many variables that the committee itself weighed back and forth, and this was their end choice. And the second group of the committee desired this as their number one choice. So this one started in the lead before the presentations. The committee moved towards the second vendor after the presentations, and then in the third meeting, the committee came back around and said, hey, we want this one. This one will meet our needs better.
And everyone who was in those meetings were at that third meeting?
Everyone in the second meeting, everyone that was in the first meeting was invited to the second meeting. And so the people that showed up were the ones that ended up voting, which was about half the committee, 2 members from 2 different schools. I talked to one teacher who called me the other day who did have a concern. He said, hey, I didn't know that we were switching, but he was fine after I visited with him. I haven't heard anything past that as far as anyone not being satisfied with the teacher's choice.
So we're not just going with McMill and McGraw because it's the lowest bid. It's the one that the majority of the committee felt like would best meet the needs.
Right. It was unanimous on the second committee, so not every member from the first meeting was there, but everyone in the second meeting said, this is the text we want.
Okay. No further discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. The motion passes. Thank you, both.
Stay there.
I'm in the marathon.
2016-17 calendar.
Okay. So for process, one, we had a really good committee. Greatly appreciate. We had parents, we had students, we had teachers. We had an elementary, middle school, and high school represented, only high school students though, as well as administrators and teachers from each of those grade levels. And committee showed up. Jennifer was there, and basically our goal was to create a calendar that serves the school's needs, and we just challenged assumptions, got the elephants out, and had a really good conversation. So greatly appreciate everybody that participated in that committee. One of the things that we set out to do on point 3 was to develop an academic calendar designed to improve student achievement. So that was the number one priority. Sally Beard pressed that one hard on me. I think it was last board meeting or the one before, but she's real adamant, hey, do what's best for kids. So that was number one priority that we reiterated over and over and over throughout the process. The second priority was the academic calendar will include sufficient time for high-quality professional development. Both of those are in board policy related to developing a school calendar. How we define priority 1, this one's for you, especially Sally. How we define priority 1 is develop an academic calendar designed to improve student achievement. First, the committee agreed, we all agree, it's how you use your time. Dr. Ritter on the plan said, hey, waste of time, identify waste. So that was the first thing. How do you create a calendar? Well, first thing you want to do is make sure that you're using time wisely. The second thing that we did, because there was a concern about, hey, what about the 10 days? We used to be 174, now we're 164. that just doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like we're achieving. So what we looked at was contiguous districts, and we looked at some other calendars like Lindbergh, which is a high-performing school. And rather than just looking at it in days, we did consider what's this, if we're really talking about student achievement, what's the determining factor? And really, it's a matter of student-teacher contact time. So we looked at the number of hours that students and teachers are face-to-face. There's two ways you can get a formula for that. You can go to the DESE, you look at the length of day and the number of days, and you can run those numbers. And I ran them against this proposed calendars against other schools' calendars from our current school year, just because I didn't have access to next year's school calendar. And Joplin Schools spends as much or more student-teacher face-to-face time as only 2 out of 11 of the schools that we looked at had more hours of student-teacher face-to-face contact time by that model. The other thing to consider when you're looking at student-teacher face-to-face contact time is half-days, early releases, and those kind of things, which we have very few. And so if you calculate that in, it actually increases our student-teacher face-to-face time compared to other districts. So we felt very confident that we were doing a good job, and this calendar meets the priority 1, basically giving us the best advantage to have student achievement and academic performance. So here's some highlights from the 16th-17th calendar. We'd start in August 18th, in May 17th. We did choose to do 2 half-days, Halloween and Valentine's Day. That helps with elementaries, and it also, on the second half of those days, we're able to use those as professional development days, and that meets our second priority. And those half-days work well. They're timed well for professional development. Another thing that the calendar committee suggested was spring parent-teacher conferences to move to mid-February to give more time for parents to encourage their students to achieve in school, rather than waiting till right before spring break. So that was a new move on the calendar. Difference this year is we have 170 student contact days versus what we had last year, which was 164 days. And then the teacher contract days would stay the same at 176. And then throughout the calendar, we would have 6 full professional development days and 2 half professional development days. And then Paul did some research on the fiscal side, and it does not look like it would cost any more revenue because of the formula.
So did you present an ideal number of student-teacher contact days?
Did I present an ideal? Did I present your
Yeah,
number?
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I did. I read the Dr. Ritter email to the calendar committee.
Yeah, and that was 210 days.
210 with 30 teacher professional development days.
So in our lifetime, will that happen?
I think there were 2 parents that were for it, too.
There was one. We did a lineup, and there was
Yeah.
there was one parent that was right with you, Dr. Ritter. She was almost all alone on that side of the room, but
She took a friend with her.
She did. Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
great. It was fun to see it.
Just want to make that announcement because really it would cost us about $20,000 a teacher to do that, so.
Jason, what was the discussion about putting all 10 days back? Because it looks like we're putting only 6 of the 10 days that we took away the year we opened the high school.
Right.
So what's the discussion about why we're not putting 10 days back?
Well, again, we talked about minutes, and right now, again, we are having more student-teacher contact minutes, and so the purpose of adding the 10 days, really, it goes back to the priority. What's our priority? Well, it's to increase student growth. What we decided, and one of the things is if we add 4 more days, they have to go somewhere, which means you're either starting school earlier or you're going later in May. And so that didn't seem like it was going to benefit, especially with the additional 10 minutes. The committee didn't see that as the most beneficial choice to add those 10 days when we still retain the 10 minutes on the current school day calendar.
So is what you're saying with retaining the 10 minutes, we're actually adding 6 longer days than any that we've ever had prior to the last 2 years.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
So in perspective, we're adding more days to the schedule, even though there are only a number of 6, but the time involved is more than we've had before.
Correct, of student-teacher contact, yes, sir.
But
Okay.
it's fewer days, but more minutes.
Yes.
Is that
Right.
right?
Total,
Fewer-
Right,
total,
so-
Fewer
total,
days,
yeah.
but more minutes.
So student contact time is actually more than just 6 days.
Than it was before,
Right.
ever.
Who are the 2 districts that have more days?
Carthage. And this is, Carthage and Neosho does on paper, but when you look at, I'll use Neosho, they do an early release. So if you start factoring early release,
Right.
then you have a whole different story.
More days,
Because
less
they do
minutes.
early release for professional development.
Every Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have
And
a
so-
half day every Friday.
Right.
which-
That's a lot.
yeah.
So more days, but less minutes, less student
Correct.
contact
And
minutes.
so that's really why saying, hey, here, this number of day it looks good on paper, but if you break it down to the hour, it's not the reality. Because truly, you could, if you're doing a half day, well, that's half a day in reality, but on paper, it still looks like a full day.
It is a full day.
Well, and someone had made the comment that those 10 minutes were throwaway minutes, that they didn't do anything with them. And what was your comment about that,
You know,
Jason? It
I
was-
did,
'cause
I
it was
talked to an
good.
elementary principal that's very successful, and she described that those minutes are, whether the minutes captured within a, hey, this is direct reading instruction, you have natural transitions that happen throughout every day. And so when that 10 minutes, whether it goes straight to reading instruction or a transitional moment, still is a minute that would save you time if you didn't have those minutes in there.
I mean, no matter how you look at it, 10 minutes is 10 minutes.
Right.
Either you add it or you don't have it, you're still going to have those 10 minutes.
That's a
And
lot
that's
simpler
what came
way of
into the
saying it.
discussion about it's all in what you do with it,
That's right.
you know?
Well, since you called me out, and you, you are right, I did take you to task last night's meeting, after the meeting.
I called you out to honor you, because, not as a, hey, Sally.
That's okay. But relative to how effective the 10 minutes is, I need to share with you some of the feedback that I've gotten in the interim is that one place to look at using them more efficiently would be around the lunch hour.
Yeah.
And I have
Pick up on
heard
that.
from numerous sources about, we don't give our children time to eat. And I have witnessed that in one instance. It really isn't an ideal situation. And maybe looking at it, I know it's a very complex issue, so it needs to be pushed back to you, but I think the 10 minutes ought to be evaluated in terms of where it could be used most efficiently. And maybe around the noon hour is a place where it could be put. Now,
Chew on that.
I appreciate very much the work that has gone into this, and I think it's wonderful that we've gotten the 6 days back, and I think it's wonderful that we've kept the 10 minutes. But I hope it's just a start, because I think we put our teachers under tremendous pressure to meet standards, and to have their students prove that teaching is effective. We need to empower them by giving them time to do their job. So the public is questioning the rigor, and I hope that we will continue to evaluate the number of days and the number of minutes in terms of the rigor. One of the things that I hear is that following the testing, everybody is so exhausted that those days are regarded as being ineffective. I think that's part of why there has been some pushback, and I don't know how much pushback we've had to adding days, because there's a perception that we don't use our time efficiently. You can see in our strategic plan that we are in the process of beginning to address that. But I think that's one of the reasons there is some pushback, is because there's waste in the system now. So if we're going to add days, why are we going to add more time to waste? We've got to correct that. And I know that in the trenches as a teacher, it is hard to do that following the testing. It's a major challenge, but that's a cultural mindset that we've got to address. It has to be addressed in every district. We're no different from anybody else. We're no better or no worse. It's the nature of the beast, but it takes an overt and concerted effort to address the malaise that sets in following testing. It's got to be high on the priority list. So in addition to looking at maybe going ahead and adding us back to a full 10 days, we need to look at some of the attitudes that creep into, and they're insidious, that creep into the mentality. Because following testing is an opportunity to do some things that we may not have time to do, kind of pushing the envelope a little bit and exploring subject material that isn't necessarily addressed in testing.
I remember the day when we didn't have map tests, and then you taught to the last day of school.
Yeah.
And so,
Glorious time.
I'm trying to say something here.
Yep.
Map tests are not good for us. They really aren't. And so, in fact, they have become an albatross from the top, all right? And so, really, we need to pay a lot of attention to the formative assessment and focus on that. And the map test, oh, by the way, that happens, okay? Until we get that focus, we're going to have that map test problem. You know, the Globe and everybody else has got to stop reporting on that and start reporting on normative assessment, and that's going to help us a lot
Well, I
more.
think the strategic plan is going to bring a systems focus.
Yeah.
That's
And
going to address that very same thing.
That's right.
And the kids that are most at risk and the ones that pull the district down are the ones that will benefit by more days. We all know what happens over summer vacation. The longer you're away, the more they lose. And it's very hard to recover that at the beginning of the school year. So anything we can do to shorten that summer break. In fact, I would be a great advocate for a balanced calendar, which is another word for year-round school.
Yep.
I'm with you, Sally. Let's do it.
210 days, you only
Let's
get
do
3
it.
weeks in July, and that's it.
Well,
Anyway,
you've got breaks scattered throughout the year. If I was a parent, I'd be the first one to step up for a year-round calendar, but
I like
I'll get off my soapbox.
All right, so
I
is that a
like
motion to adopt it?
I have one more question.
Okay.
Just one more question. We had talked about building in a snow day, like on President's Day. You decided not to do that? Or
Well,
I missed that
President's
last
Day,
meeting?
basically the only day you'd have to choose the day because we didn't do the President's Day. So it would be, for example, the day off after parent-teacher conferences or one of those days that seemed less ideal, and you'd only be recapturing one snow day. The reality of a snow day now is if you end early enough in May, you're not pushing your snow day into June, even with 6, because state requires that you have 6 built-in snow days. So we're really not in as bad a shape as needing a makeup snow day during the school year because we end at a reasonable enough time in May to not have to do that.
what are snow days?
Norm doesn't do snow days.
Somebody will call you
Yeah,
tonight.
my daughter's still angry at you
My
for
kids
that.
did have a rumor. They said, "Is it true Dr. Ritter's never called a snow day in his entire career?" So apparently there's a urban myth out there.
I would
Maybe it's
move
true.
G6.
I just said.
Okay. it's
Okay,
been-
2 quick comments. My grandchildren go to Arkansas year-round schools. It's fabulous.
It
Would
is.
love to see us do that. Second comment, I noticed on Martin Luther King Day, it's a Teacher Professional Development Day. I would like for you to take the thought back to the calendar committee to make that a great day of service. That on that
Oh, I like
Professional Development Day, what could we do out in our community? Great opportunity, I think, for us to do some service.
No,
Throwing it out there.
I like that.
That's pretty much what MSSU does.
We do.
Yeah, I thought that's.
Go figure.
I thought that, yeah. Okay.
There's a motion on the floor to adopt this as it is. Is there a second?
So moved.
Seconded. So the motion's by Sally, the second by Linda. If there's no further discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, and that passes. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, not just to you, Jason, but to everybody that served and gave input and stood up and said, hey, this is what I would like you to consider. Even if we didn't end up that way, we want that feedback.
And just to honor that voice, I read 2 letters from patrons that did have to bring the 10 days back to the committee right off the bat, as well as Dr. Ritter's letters.
Okay.
So we did try to honor all feedback and all voices within the process.
That's good.
Yeah, Jason did a nice job with the committee, I thought. I wasn't able to go to the last meeting, but it was
Good.
good.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, policies, bless you.
That's me again.
Oh, you okay?
Then my marathon's over.
First
All right.
reading.
Have three policies. The first is IGDA, which is Student-Initiated Group Use of District Facilities. And really, that policy revolves around just, it's non-discrimination. So if you have non-curricular clubs or activities and the students want to initiate a group, you can't really say no unless it's against school mission. So that's the gist of that policy.
Well, and they have to, didn't we say that they needed to be high school students in order
Yes.
to do that?
Yeah,
So
9th through 12th grade.
An elementary group.
That was one thing the policy clarifies is secondary was what it was listed before, and they defined secondary as 9th grade and above.
Okay. Well, you want to do these as a group?
I can go through all of them and then
Yeah.
go for a group.
Please.
Policy JFH is a rescinded policy, student complaints and grievances, because it's covered now in policy KL, which is public complaints. And so policy KL takes place of JFH, and on the public complaints, main thing says, go to the source. If you can't resolve it at the source, go to the next level up, and if it gets serious, put it in writing and then go through the process. And it gives some guidelines for responding in writing. And then it also talks about, if you have a complaint regarding a federal program, it gives some of that procedural language as well.
Okay.
Need action.
Yeah, I'll take a motion to approve the first reading.
I move we approve all three policies.
All right.
I'll second.
Deb has moved, Jennifer a second. Any other discussion?
I just want to make a comment that this really does streamline for any parent, staff, students to really, it gives us a really good guideline. It really spells it out very well, whereas I think it had been a little vague at times. And even as school board members, as we get comments, it really does give us something to really generate a very stepwise
Yeah.
plan.
I think the timing, is also important because we're empowering the teachers to resolve those issues. And we're saying, don't start with the school board president, no offense to anybody, but start as close to the situation as you can, because those are the people that have the most information. And you learn more than jumping to.
Well, they gather the
to other
data
end.
about the situation and they can
Yeah.
really put the pieces
And
together.
it gives them a chance to resolve it. So,
And you know what, just because I don't deal with most of the parent complaints for a long while at the district level, is the reality is almost always it's a communication gap. It
Yeah.
really revolves around some misperception or miscommunication, and usually can be solved so much quicker right there at ground zero, and that's the first step of
Yeah.
the policies.
so, good. Did we vote? We had a
Yes.
motion
That was
and a second,
discussion.
and it was,
Yes.
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 Yes, okay, that passed, thank you. Second reading.
Second reading, test integrity and security. It's pretty much mandated by the
Pretty
state
much,
anyway,
yeah,
so
that's-
it just is what it is.
All right, I move we adopt that.
Second.
Jennifer, second.
Rock, paper, scissors.
All right, any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. Number 9, proposal to extend professional services.
This is basically responding to where our facilities needs are the greatest, and that's at Columbia and West Central. And it's really the first step in several steps. And so Mike, why don't you talk about that a little
We
bit?
currently have a contract for design services from PLJBD, a local architect. They did all the elementary school designs for the safe rooms and the interior remodel work. What this would do is, PLJBD is consented to extend that contract at the current rate to cover the design work necessary to do the proposed work in West Central and Columbia at their current rate. So this would cover that. With a $400,000 budget, at 6%, that would be $24,000. It will be probably somewhat less than that, but unless we change the plan. And that's what we're asking you to do, is to approve this extension. We'll be spending new dollars that have not been board approved previously.
So we're extending so it's another 400,000 or it's 24,000?
24,000 for the design work, the total project cost would be 400,000.
Okay.
Mike, how is that split between the two buildings? Because my
Cor-
recollection, Columbia needs a lot more work than West Central.
Well, this is not intended to be all-inclusive and correct all ills.
Right.
This is equally distributed with restroom remodels and the carpeting and the facelift, the painting, and to give it a fresh look.
So at
I would agree with
Columbia, where it's on the east side where it's sinking, it has sunk, it's dropped. One of the restrooms I know is on that side of the building, and that's where tiles are popping off and the walls kind of coming different. Are you going to fix the foundation issues there before doing that? Because if you don't, you're still going to have new tiles popping off the wall and.
That's correct. Part of this proposal is to solicit RFPs for that stabilization. I really don't know how the budget's going to hold out until we bid it. These prices are, at 400,000, that's a fairly thin budget. I don't know that there'll be enough to stabilize that. We have talked with the architect about using on the floor some different materials that are more pliable so that we don't run into those issues quite so bad, but it would be better to stabilize that corner if the funds are
It
available.
might be a case of where we need to find the funds.
Yeah, I would
I would
say find
agree.
the
Yeah, I would
money
say,
to do
yeah.
it. Otherwise, we're throwing good money after
I
bad.
would agree.
However, that portion of costs could be handled outside the purview of this contract. We could just put out RFPs. The companies do their own design work, their geotechnical design work. So that would be part of their proposals.
Oh, I see.
You could bring it separate.
So we wouldn't have to pay any design costs for
right.
that.
But that work would need to be done before this work were done.
We're in conjunction with, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And is this 400,000 in the capital budget for this year?
Yes, well, yes and no. It is. The dollars are there. They were earmarked and approved for the purchase of 4 new buses.
There you go, okay.
And doing an analysis of the fleet, we're trying to maintain a fleet of 15 years or younger, and we can forego a year and still beat that goal. So we'll still meet the goal of 15 years or younger for all of our active route buses and our road buses, and still have a couple extra over that threshold, so,
Still be fiscally responsible.
yes.
And were these the priorities set by the sites, or how were these priorities determined?
These, we call this our Plan B, because our Plan A, as determined by our last 2 long-term facilities committees, which were people from the community and administrators working for months on both of them, they had identified all of the schools similar to West Central and Columbia. Emerson and Irving were also tagged as schools to be demolished and rebuilt because of the age of the schools and the changes that have happened over the last centuries with education. But we asked ourselves more recently, what are the short-term realistic chances that we're going to have the funds to do that, and decided that since we had not invested in these 2 schools like we had the other schools, because they were earmarked for demolition, that they had kind of been left behind. And this does not quite level the playing field and bring them up to standards that we were able to get the other elementary schools, but it's a big step in that direction. We have a Plan B actually calls for more work than this, but in addition to Columbia, for example, would be a big ticket item. And to relocate the kitchens, reclaim the stage areas and put your kitchens where the stages are currently. Now that the safe rooms have been constructed, they use the safe rooms for their PE functions. So they're no longer cafegimatoriums, they're just cafeterias now. The new gyms also are new auditoriums, so to speak. So,
But
for
you're
large-
saying that's not a part of the plan right now to address
no,
that?
no, not- it's
And
part
we've
of
got
the plan.
refrigerators, and we've got kitchens basically set up in the hallway in
Correct.
Columbia, is that correct?
That's correct, and less so, but still somewhat at West Central, same issue. this would deal with that. We would move those things into the cafeteria because the floor space freed up by having the gymnasium.
So those will come out of the hallways? I don't
Yes.
think
Right.
I understood that when I
Yes.
visited with
yes.
you. Okay.
The problem will be the distance traveled back and forth with the kitchen. The kitchen staff won't be too fond of it, but safety has to.
I think the
You know.
kitchen staff will be fond of it.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
safety, when they realize it's a safety issue, they're team players.
I met with Columbia parents last Wednesday evening, I think it was Wednesday evening, and basically, they were comfortable and excited about this first step, but they're going to hold it accountable for the next, second,
Absolutely.
and the third
As
step.
they should.
So what I understood for the first step was painting, carpet, and,
Restroom remodel.
yeah, but not that we were getting the stuff out of the hallway.
Yeah.
That is included in the first step.
Yes, but there's no cost there. Well, a very little, some
Yeah.
electrical possibly, but no major cost.
What really
Right.
frees that up is the safe rooms opening up for the gymnasium.
Yes.
Now you can put the stuff in the
PE
in the
stuff
cafeteria
in
where
the-
you did PE.
Which will be
before.
Thursday at Columbia.
Okay.
That's what I was going to ask.
We passed our
It is
inspection
part of it.
Friday.
Okay.
And we're
Friday.
cleaning and waxing now.
Friday is the date that the state.
No, Thursday they're
Thursday.
going to move in.
Thursday, they're moving.
It's pretty nice.
Do we have a ribbon cutting set for that yet?
I'm sorry?
We have a ribbon cutting set
I
for
don't-
Columbia
Kelly's
Stadium
been
yet?
waiting for me to tell her we passed, so she
Oh, past the inspection?
Yeah, we got, yeah.
Okay.
All right, good.
Don't want to get too far away from the agenda item, so if
I move approval of the proposal to extend the professional services contract.
great.
Can we do both of them at the same time?
You want to do 9 and 10 both together?
Are they,
They're the
one is
same.
exterior, one is interior? Would you be willing to amend?
Let me restate the motion to approve items 9 and 10.
Okay, excellent. And is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, and so Ron moved it, Debbie seconded. If no further discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, go tell those parents. Thank you. All right, surplus items.
Anybody want to buy any buses?
My only question was, what are 18-year-old buses worth?
50 cents.
Thanks, Scrap.
$1.
we've been getting $4,000 to $5,000.
5,000?
How much?
On average.
Wow. Oh, okay. Hey, anybody want to buy it for 4,000, 5,000?
Yeah.
If
4,000?
we're offered less, we know the salvage yard for the metal salvage value is around 2, depending on the day, how much the steel's going for. So we have always a caveat in there that if they don't bring salvage value, we'll take whichever's highest. But we've never had to do that.
Okay.
Well, anyway,
This
that's
could be
what this
turned
is.
into tiny homes, the
Partridge
tiny home
family.
movement.
Okay, anyway, that's what this says, so, plus some other things.
All right,
Okay, motion to approve.
all right.
I moved.
Debbie has moved to
I
approve
second.
this. Linda, second. Any discussion? This is the next item,
Oh,
the surplus. Any other discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. That is passed as well. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah. Next to last item, this is the superintendent's system review. So this is a little unusual and maybe not common. I don't know, was it common in Springfield?
No, it's basically,
Okay. So on this item, we've got two documents. One is the systems check level, which is basically a set of metrics for the superintendent. We as a board individually rated the superintendent based on a scale of not yet, progressing, proficient, or advanced, with descriptors describing each one for each specific indicator. And there's about 15 different indicators plus 13 different general superintendent indicators. I don't know how best to describe this to yourselves. You're looking at the documents there. You'll notice what's highlighted in yellow is what the summary of the board. Pat also on each specific indicator indicated the number of tallies of that specific. So an example of 1.1, superintendent develops and implements and refines a district mission, strategic plan, and drives district and board decisions. That was rated by 5 people as progressing, 1 person as proficient, and 1 as advanced. So the overall board evaluation was progressing. Goes down the list, you guys can see that. And then there, at the bottom of what was published, we had the individual systems feedback, individual comments from board members. There wasn't a summary of what all those comments were to make 1 comment per. So those are not weighted other than 1/7. And then next to that, we also have the superintendent's self-evaluation. And he's marked each area. There's some places we feel you're doing a better job than you feel that you're doing. And there's some areas where we're in alignment. But generally speaking, it seems like we're satisfied with the direction things are going, and the overall assessment is there. If you've got any specific areas that anybody from the board would like to address.
I want to address just I think it's the customer focus that you have is amazing, and I think it's been enlightening for me as a board member, and as well as many of the other things, but to me that is a super strength, and to keep us, and I know we don't like the term customer, but to me the customer is the community, the students, staff, everybody, and I think it's really helped us all to really laser focus in on that. And that's been a strength. This is a difficult tool to use because we evaluated you in January, and we're looking at strategic plan, and here we are in February, and we've got the strategic plan. We're more than just progressing. So I don't know, this was difficult because I know your skill level is higher than but we have to look at where the system is under your leadership and progressing along. So to me, this looks low compared to your skill level.
No, but you see, you're analyzing the system and where the system is, and that's key, because we're establishing that baseline.
Right.
And so that's really where it's at.
It is
And
where it's at in
And
January.
I'm excited about that. Because if you'd have scored me higher than that, I'd have been frustrated, because we're not there. And so, yeah.
And what we will do with this, we will have another review
Right.
June 23rd.
Yep.
Found that date.
Yep.
So June 23rd will be the next review. And it's similar to that we did with the school calendar with the moving up the review of the students to February. That gives you time to course correct as opposed to come to the very end and say, well, I didn't make it. This gives an opportunity for us to make sure that we're progressing.
What's going to be nice about that, it's just before budget approval. Really makes it nice. So anyway.
Maybe we could move it out 1 more week.
I think everybody scored you very high in customer focus. It's definitely an overall strength. And
You learn that skill after 42 years of marriage, You better serve your spouse or you're in trouble.
Right. No, and
It's a learned behavior.
And personally, I'm glad that you're sharing this, not just with us, but you're sharing it with the leadership around the district and having those conversations. And you want to work directly with the people that are going to be here when you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just a stop along the way. You want to impart the knowledge before you go, and I certainly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, and I think it's important to not be, if you were advanced in everything at this point, it would be, I don't know that would be an honest assessment of anybody.
Nope.
So I appreciate your honesty in looking at how you feel you're doing and where our district is, because I think that honesty is important. And like you said, that right there, to me, shows the humble leadership that you talk about.
Thanks.
And I think that's important.
Thank you.
The only thing that was marked as advanced in the entire appraisal was accessibility to the board and others. And I think that goes to
I appreciate your
practice what you
servant
preach.
leadership.
Thank you.
I appreciate your servant leadership and the fact that you're empowering the staff
Thank you.
and building trust.
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback, and I look forward to giving you guys feedback sometime, by the way.
We know it's coming.
We should do that openly. as
April
well.
5th, I think
Yeah.
that's my.
It'll be coming.
Because that's our customers, I mean,
Yeah,
they elected us.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, you are getting your feedback. Okay, anyway. They don't trust you guys.
So I don't, I don't see
So-
any action on this, but should we take action to approve the summary as presented?
That
It's
would be
under our
appro-
consent agenda, I think we need to.
That would be appropriate, yes.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve it as presented in the summary.
Second.
Seconded by Deb. If there's any other comments, further discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Ritter. You did say we would get out of here, I'm coming right to you, in an hour and a half. We're 2 minutes over, but there's one more thing that Dr. Fort would like to share with the board, so please.
I think it was in January, Sally had brought up that we had gone to the MSBA conference, and, we had all these wonderful trainings, but then we come back and get in real life, and what do we do with it? So she had mentioned the workshop we'd gone to on communication, and so Sally and I were visiting last week again, and I had gone on to, it's Fort Osage School District.
Right, Fort
And they
Osage, yeah.
use something called Parent Link. And so we kind of went on there, and they have this, I would encourage you to go to Fort Osage, and you can download this little application on your phone that says Fort Osage, and then you can pick your school that you want to get information from, and I picked all the schools plus the board, and every day I know exactly what's going on in Fort Osage. So all I want to say is I hope that as a district, we're going to look at improving our communication. Whatever tool it is, I'm not promoting this one specifically, but it's a wonderful thing. And I think that the public's trust would be improved if we were communicating more effectively with them. Don't know what this cost. I'm challenging you and your leadership team to look into this
We are.
and see, so what do we know about it so far? What do we know about the cost? What do we know about, know anything?
Yep, we do.
Okay.
Here comes Kelly.
Our websites are up for bid this year, and a lot of the vendors that supply the websites also do apps and messaging services. And so there's some cost savings by bundling these applications. So either at the March meeting or the April meeting, you will have before you the bids from that process, and it will very likely include an app
Okay.
that is very similar, if not the same, as the one that Fort Osage uses.
One caution I always have is that districts overwhelm the system with this stuff. And so we need to kind of fine tune it, okay?
Yeah, we had this conversation.
Yeah, we have. And
So if you're going to add something to it, you need to take away
Everything
something
else needs to go away.
Yeah,
Couldn't agree more.
yep, no, that's good. It's,
Yeah,
I mean,
key thing.
it is, and we want as much good information we can get, and we don't want to clutter it. And I think, Sally, you mentioned, people don't want to go look for it, they want to have it handed to them. And this allowed. I mean, and I don't mean that in
I'm gonna pull
a
that
negative
up.
way, I mean,
It's awesome.
it's easier if it comes straight to you and you open it.
It is
Right.
it is a great tool. I also have the app on my phone, so I know exactly what you're talking about, Dr. Fort,
It's cool.
and the messaging. So I do think it's going to be very beneficial because it's mobile. It does, many of our parents, despite their economic level, have smartphones. So for
They
that
do.
reason alone, it could probably be a very beneficial tool for us. But I agree with you, we need to look at our total communications and see what we can push out so that we can replace it with something more effective.
Well, and part of what started me thinking on it is that we have this app called Lockdown at 3 of our schools that allows staff, that if there is an intruder, allows staff to immediately have live time communication. And I don't want just 3 schools worth of our students and teachers protected. I want all of our schools protected. And so we were talking about, do we move to lockdown now versus do we try to find a program? I don't have a preference for a program. What I have a preference for is that we get something in place as soon as possible so that our children are protected.
Can we find out what Fort Osage has?
I tried to make a phone call and did not get that information.
Yeah, I think you're doing.
And I know Stephanie Smith, the communication director there, and I reached out to her as well. I'm not sure this application will do something similar, but we will certainly look into
Right.
it.
From what I looked at on their site, it's a suite of actually 3 different programs, and I didn't see anything about that in there. But I know Seneca just had a lockdown last week, and I saw how lockdown immediately communicated to everybody so that that situation was safe. And so I want this sooner, not later.
And it's not cost prohibitive, really. It's not.
Yeah, it's very reasonable.
It's very reasonable. I think it's like $3,000 for the entire district
Yep.
for the year.
Okay.
I think what people need to be prepared for, though, is that this, if you buy one of these programs, it will be a multi-year process before you get all of the components that you want. And you can pick and choose what components you can prioritize. But it's not going to happen in 6 months or 12 months. It might happen in 18 or 24.
Yeah, I just don't know what you're talking about. But the lockdown makes, that could be the priority,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
So-
and I think they could probably even, we can tell them what we want, and they could probably develop,
Well,
On
anyway,
this
we got the
apparently-
It's
message.
already done.
We got the
It's
message,
already,
so
they're
yeah.
already developed, and
yeah.
That's what I mean.
But this one's, I guess what Deb's saying is this is already in some of our schools, so
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is, I understand it would take a while to get, if we go with Parent Link and all that in place and train everybody and all that. What I'm talking about is safety from intruders.
Right.
yeah.
That we
And-
already
and-
have that in our district in 3 buildings,
We
and I
should have
want
a
all of our
plan
buildings to
at the
have
end of
that.
March that's
Yeah.
going to be presented, so I'm sure that will be included in it somewhere.
Okay.
Yep. Also want to take a moment under the board announcements to welcome, we got some candidates for the Board of Education for the election next month. Carlos Haley is here. Carlos. I'm trying to, okay, Mary Gardner. Mary. Lori Musser. Melissa Rogers. Jennifer Dozier? No. There's nobody else over there that okay, all right, no.
Jennifer
What about
Bertucci.
this?
Hello.
Oh,
That's what you meant?
Jennifer, yes,
Not
Jennifer.
part of it, right?
Yeah, sitting up here. So everybody, I appreciate the interest in serving on the board.
Absolutely.
It's not a lot of time, but you can make a lot of impact in a short amount of time. So appreciate you guys being willing to serve. So good luck and. We appreciate your service. Oh, thank you. All right, with nothing
No,
further?
Further, I think we need to start adding celebrations back again like we used to do. So I think we should need to celebrate the archery team did
Oh,
really,
yeah,
really
they
well.
did.
And we had a wrestler medal at state.
Yes.
Philip Ritz.
And
And I know there are
named
lots of
Allstate.
celebrations out there.
Physics team.
Well, and
The
yeah,
physics team did really well, so I
Our
think we need to put
Yeah.
that back.
Our foreign language kids, they had
Swept.
foreign language field day last Friday, and we won every language.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we need to start
I
celebrating
think
our
that's-
successes
I
at the
think
end
it's
of our
fair
board
enough.
meetings.
Good idea.
So-
And
We do
Yeah.
that.
Last thing,
At our
our
leadership
Constitution team has raised all the money
Have they?
they need
Oh,
to
okay.
go to Washington DC to
Yes.
compete at nationals.
Okay,
Great.
excellent.
So,
Good.
Well.
We'll put that on
we've
the
got a lot.
agenda.
Okay, all right. If nothing further, motion to adjourn.
so moved.
So moved by Sally, second
Second.
by Deb. Please vote.
yes.
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 Yes?
Yes, we're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I got to tell Gary, I'm going to tell Gary we were.